The first time I played the Rana campaign in Songs of Conquest, I was surprised by how engaging it was. It starts you off playing as Rask, not yet the first rider, who has just escaped from Barian slavery as he races off to the safety of the swamp. Compared to the relatively static Ardeon campaign, this is a big increase in excitement, and it's made a lot more interesting by the Barian Wielder who is chasing you throughout the map. Now, the Songs of Conquest mapmaker is actually a pretty powerful tool. I think the game developers are on record saying that they actually use the mapmaker to make the actual maps for the game, which is why this week I wanted to take a look at how you could make your own map in which you need to run away from an angry AI. Welcome to Rabble, a channel all about Songs of Conquest. My name is David, and for this week's map making tutorial, we're taking a look at Wielder spawn points. Let's get into it.
In the Songs of Conquest, 4 factions rise, with power and strategy, each claiming their prize.
The Wielder spawn point is found right next to the settlements in the mapmaker toolbox, and if you've watched the game developers' tutorials on the mapmaker, then you should know that unless you place a spawner on the map for a player, that player will not start with any Wielders. So let's go ahead and place one on the map here, and we'll set it to player 2. We won't go over every single thing that can change about the Wielder spawn points, in order to keep the video short, and anyways, a lot of it is self-explanatory. So for now, we're going to just go over to the Spawn tab at the top of the menu, and we'll take a look at the options there. Looking through the menu, we see an option to change the type of spawner from automatic to manual. An automatic spawner will spawn the Wielder right away at the start of the game, while a manual spawner will require a trigger. There's a whole video to be done on triggers, but we will be using this setting a bit later in this video in order to spawn our AI. But we're going to mostly brush over specific details about it. For now, we'll keep going down the list of options. We'll note that we can choose which Wielder spawns. This can be used to spawn Wielders from different factions, so for instance, if we chose Ambertina, a Loth Wielder, we could get them to spawn for player 2, even if player 2 chooses to play as, say, the Rana. Changing the level option will change what level the Wielder spawns at, allowing you to generate more powerful Wielders from a spawner. You then have the choice to select what skills, artifacts, and starting army this Wielder has. As we keep going, we see that we have a choice to choose what behavior an AI Wielder that spawns from the spawner will have. We'll of course be using the Seek and Destroy option in a bit to create our chasing AI, but I also find that the Stand Guard option is useful. Once you make a few maps, you start realizing that the average encounter can only get so difficult, because normally neutral troops can't use magic. By dedicating a player to be an AI and giving them only Wielder spawn points that create Wielders with the Stand Guard behavior, you can effectively create neutral Wielders for people to fight around the map. Just make sure that they have a hidden village somewhere, or they'll just disappear after 5 turns. One last thing that I'll note about the behavior is that while it will apply right away on an automatic spawner, if the spawner is set to manual, you'll need to create a trigger that will activate the behavior. More on that in a second. Finally, at the bottom of this tab, we have a choice to give the Wielder that spawns here buffs. These buffs are any status effect that you can get from map items or events, and can last for as long as you want. It's also worth noting that these buffs can stack, so even if you could normally only activate one Aurelian milestone at any one point, there's nothing stopping you from giving a character the Aurelian milestone buff 5 times, and they'll benefit from that buff every single time. Now that we've gone over the options that we have with Wielder spawn points, how do we recreate the AI in the first Rana campaign? First, let's deal with the Wielder spawner. Once again, we're going to set the player to player 2, and then I'll go into the Spawn tab. At the top, I'm going to give the spawner an identifier, which will let me interact with it with another object around the map. This means that I'll have a way to trigger the spawner once I set it to a manual spawn. For a wielder, I think I'll choose Rask, the first rider. It just seems fitting. And I'm going to set Rask's AI to Seek and Destroy. You can let Rask decide who he wants to target, but for simplicity's sake, I'm going to select Triggering Wielder. And then we have to decide what is going to trigger Rask. Remember, this is a manual spawn now, so we have to create something to activate Rask's AI. I'm going to write in gold, and remember that I need to make a corresponding trigger later. Once I'm done editing the spawner, I'm going to go across the map and set up a corresponding trigger. I'll drop down a pouch of gold and open up the Interaction tab. Under Trigger Effects, I'll select Spawn Wielder, and I'll select the identifier of the Wielder spawner that we created earlier. Finally, at the top here, I'm going to make sure that the identifier for this pouch of gold is the same as the trigger for Rask's Seek and Destroy AI. In my case, this is gold. And that's it. Let's see this in action. So I'll go ahead and pick up the gold pouch, and now we should see that Rask has spawned. And so now when I end my turn, he should start heading my way. Yep, there he goes. He's completely ignoring everything around him and is only focused on catching me. Now, obviously, I've given him some extra movement speed. I gave him the waterfall buff several times, and so that should be enough for him to make it all the way over here to fight me. And there we go. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you end up making any Songs of Conquest maps using some interesting AI tools, please let us know in the comments below. I've been David, and I hope to see you all in the next song.